Well, starting off this Saturday, getting into a subject that's kind of been near and dear to my heart for a while now. I'm going to share this with you. It's a video I found from News for Reasonable People. It's a really great video. We're not going to play the entire video or anything here, but it's about how rural counties in California, Illinois pushed to secede after the Trump victory. And when he says secede, he isn't saying secede from the Union. He's speaking about rural counties seceding from very liberal urban centers, which dictate the direction of the entire state. And that's a problem here in the state of Minnesota as well that we're going to get into in this video. But a growing movement among rural counties in blue states like California, Illinois, and Oregon, and Minnesota. It's a huge problem here in Minnesota. We are not rural. We are We are ruled by St. Paul, a very large urban mass. Hennepin, Ramsey County rules the entire state, and we're going to go into evidence of that here shortly. Initiatives like the Greater Idaho Movement aim to redraw state borders, allowing rural regions to escape liberal-dominated urban policies. These movements highlight stark divides between urban and rural voters, with rural areas seeking governance more aligned with their fiscal conservatism, traditional values, and local priorities. However, the practical challenges of congressional approval and political resistance make these efforts unlikely to succeed soon. And I'm under no illusion. These efforts will not succeed. There's no way they possibly can. This video is wonderful. I highly recommend watching it. It really explains the movements out in California and Idaho and their future and what they hope to attain. Here in Minnesota, the issue is that St. Paul rules the entire state based on the decision-making of only a few counties. And I understand that land doesn't vote, people do. I understand that. However, when the people who do vote en masse do not reflect in any way whatsoever the values or culture of another large portion, then something is wrong and something has to be done. What I'm going to show you here is a map of the 2016 presidential election for the state of Minnesota on a county-by-county basis. As you can see, Hennepin County, Ramsey County, Dakota County, Washington County, St. Louis County. Okay? This is 2016. 2020. The exact same counties. The only addition are down here, a couple others. Very barely do they make it to being blue. Back to 2024. Same counties. These counties rule the state of Minnesota. The people out here in the rural part of the state, St. Paul rules over us, and we have hardly had any say. This year we have had enough House members in the State House to block any initiatives from the Democrats like they did in the last session, where they allowed virtually everything under the sun in their wet dreams to become law in this state. Children can come from other states and have the worst things done. You can have child deletion well into the third trimester in this state. Any number of state programs got funded with our $17 billion surplus, which are now permanent programs and are now $17 billion in addition to the budget prior to their arrival. And someone might say, well, that could just be the presidential. Well, this is the 22 election for governor. amazing. It's almost identical. The one I accidentally flipped to was 2006. I don't believe we can view that as relevant anymore. But this is the 2022 gubernatorial election here in the state of Minnesota. The map is virtually identical. It's virtually identical. There are a few. The Mankato area. This down here is the city of Mankato, Blue Earth and Mankato counties. Almost identical. The issue brought up in the video at the start of this is very much a nationwide thing. There's hardly any state in this country that has a large city that does not rule the entire state. I'm having trouble saying that word. Rule. There we go. There's hardly a state in this country that doesn't have this problem. Nevada is ruled by Las Vegas. St. Louis rules over most of Missouri. Chicago definitely rules over Illinois. This is a problem. When your cultural values don't reflect 50% of your voters and it becomes geographically obvious where those places are, perhaps it's time for there to be a redrawing of state borders. Perhaps it's the only way to save the Union. Instead of going to civil war with one another, what if we have a national divorce and we agree to separate? You take your portion, we'll take ours. We'll stay in the same union, but we better reflect, the people are better reflected by the representation. You can now move forward with all of your crazy liberal policies and destroy your economies. We can sit back and watch it happen with our low taxes and high entrepreneurial rate of people starting businesses, people working. We're fine with that. At least I'm fine with that. I've been saying for 2 years now, East Dakota. I am absolutely for the western portion of Minnesota. Seceding from the rest of Minnesota, not the Union. Not the Union. But from the rest of Minnesota and forming East Dakota. We were part of the Dakota Territory when we started anyway. The values of western Minnesota are better reflected by the people of North and South Dakota and Iowa than we are the people of the Twin Cities and of the Iron Range of Minnesota, a very high union place. Perhaps it's time for something a little different on a nationwide scale.